Rogue One full film breakdown. Let's get right into it. Okay, so this is actually the first of our spin-off Star Wars films, standalone Star Wars films, however you want to word them. So let's get right into it. I'm going to do this a little bit structurally different. I'm going to be doing this talking about character by character because it's like, I think first because I want to get something out. So let's talk about the characters. I think the characters in general, before we get into the actual scenes, because this is a big part of my breakdown, is the characters. I think the characters are definitely the weakest part about the film. Definitely the weakest part of the film is the characters. Because, I don't know, there's something about this idea of like, you have one film to develop all these, it's just one mission with all these characters. And I think it's so rare for a film to work with this big ensemble cast, but yet the story to really not surround these characters. It's how these characters lead to the final battle, to the mission. So it's very much not centered around these characters. These characters are a part of the story, but they don't have a integral part and say, yes, Jyn Erso is related to Galen, who helps build the flaw in the Death Star and all that, and build the Death Star. But it's like, I think the only reason the deaths of them work, and I love that sequence, not because it's so sad and powerful. I think if it is powerful, which it is, it's a powerful scene in the ending, but it's powerful because these characters died getting these plans across. It's not the irony of my favorite character died. It's the irony of they risked everything. They put everything on the line to save what they care about, to save that because that feels like rebellion to me, but it has nothing to do with the characters. And so I think there's attributes of, for example, Jyn Erso that I really enjoy, that I really appreciate. They just don't get fully developed. And I think K2 and Cassian Andor, another great example of two characters that I loved in this film, but we didn't get much about. And so it brings me back to the sense of, do I really love them? The characters, the problem is it's not that these are bad characters, they just don't get fully developed. In where it's like, they don't, but that's not a bad, it's interesting because like going into this film, I knew that this was probably going to be one of the flaws. It's like, these characters, how can you relate to them? How can you say, oh, I care about these characters when you just meet them and it's like Bodhi Rook probably says like 2 lines in the entire film. And I like Chirrut Îmwe. I like these different things that they bring into the table and all that. But they don't just get the development that they need. That's why I think like when you read the book Guardians of the Whills, you get introduced to them more. Hopefully when the Cassian Andor and K2SO show comes out, I'll be more interested in these characters. But at this moment, I'm like, I don't have a lot to base those characters on. But let's get right into the acts. The first act, the past was great. I think I loved just seeing the Empire go to town. And I really like this idea that they needed a scientist to build it, because I was always wondering, like, there's probably so much that goes on, and I was like, there's probably, the Empire probably has all these different things they need, including scientists, but we never saw any Imperial scientists, which is another great plus for this film, is that it definitely does extend the mythology. And so yeah, bringing Galen on board and killing the mom and Jyn leaving. Again, I don't think Jyn was my favorite character of this, even just this film, and definitely not one of my favorites overall, but I still enjoyed the character of Jyn Erso. I love that Saw was in it. It was great to integrate a character first in Clone Wars to a film. Honestly, I don't think that's ever been done before, and I don't think that will happen since. When it comes to Clone Wars or Rebels getting integrated into a film, characters getting integrated into films. And I think, and it's like, Saw didn't have a big role, but he didn't need a big role. I wouldn't say, to make it effective, to make his role effective, ultimately. And so yeah, I like the planet that they were on. I liked she had like a doll of the clone or of the stormtroopers, and I like the Death Troopers. And it's like they made it a good way where they can introduce Death Troopers, but yet still have it so that they don't have to be in A New Hope. A New Hope. And I also I liked, but we'll get into more. Then they go back to Yavin 4. I love seeing Yavin 4. Another big part about this film, why a lot of things work for me, is the nostalgia of seeing Yavin 4. Because in all these different planets and all this stuff. Because I think what I love about this film is you can have everything I love about the original trilogy when it comes to visuals and planets and action sequences, but with the technology they have today, makes it just so much better. But while I actually would prefer some of the original trilogy sequences, that doesn't change the fact that maybe they look better, that these are done better. Doesn't mean that the nostalgia like, for example, I like the trench run more than I like this final battle, but that doesn't mean that on a space battle level, honestly, I'd say that this is better. I think there's other stuff in the trench battle that besides the battle itself, because let's be honest, it's not the best high quality, but that still pushes it ahead. But we'll get to that. So yeah, seeing Yavin 4, seeing Mon Mothma, Bail Organa, the different Mon Calamari, the just nostalgia rush is huge. Because like I said, you take every great planets, great locations that you love, and characters that you love from the original trilogy, but with today's modern effects and modern everything you can do about it. I just loved it. And I love our introducing of Cassian Andor, and I love this idea of, Jyn is not your typical hero, and she goes on an adventure. She goes, from rebelling in her own words. I think obviously there's so much stuff on the cutting room floor for this film that I would like to see, but a lot of stuff I didn't need on that flip side of things. But yeah, anyway, so K2, Cassian, and Jyn go on the plane or ship, and then Cassian's giving the orders to kill Galen, and I really like that idea of killing Galen, because we've always pent up the rebellion to be all these nice and heroes and good people, and they stand for something good. But just because they stand up for the Empire doesn't mean their beliefs are any better. And so I always get fascinating kicks out of stories that talk about our heroes who we're supposed to root for, and that even then in itself, not always having the best guys involved. Because you see Cassian at the beginning killing, one of his rebel friends to survive. But it also just shows a bunch of different things, a bunch of different point of views you could have. That's really messed up. You kill one of your rebel friends, but at the same time, it's if he didn't, he wouldn't get out of there. If he didn't get out of there, then so-and-so information would never get into the Rebel Alliance, which would then be used to help them go against the Empire. So it's one of those interesting things is they're trying to be the good guys, but at what cost? And I think that was an interesting idea that was somewhat explored. And I think a lot of things that get explored, or just, I'll use the terms, somewhat get explored, because it's not a film that, it's not I don't need to make a trilogy of all this. I don't care. I'm just saying these ideas of somewhat this, somewhat that getting explored, I can still very much be intrigued and enjoy that. I like a line in the scene where they're on the ship stands out to me is when Cassian says, or when Jyn takes a gun and then Cassian says, give that back to me, and then she's like, I know how to use it, and then Cassian's like, that's what I'm afraid of. I don't know. I just think some of the banter is smart banter. That's a smart joke, or not even joke, but that's a smart ideology. It's if they use a weapon, that's not always a good thing when you can't really trust them. Then they go to Jedha. I love Jedha. I think it was a really cool planet. Again, introducing a bunch of different concepts that were somewhat explored. Guardians of the Wills, and a planet, or at least a city, dedicating themselves to the Jedi and the Force. And I love nostalgia rushes back. I can't help it. Where it's the guys from the bar, that bullied Luke, that Obi-Wan ultimately cut the arms to. Seeing him, push Jyn, asking for, I think, credits or something. I don't know. But again, even though it's like, oh, just shoving nostalgia in your face, I didn't care for that, because it's like, as a kid growing up with these Star Wars films, with the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, I think a great thing about this is it just still feels like Star Wars in that sense, where it's like I still will come back to this and say, oh yay, I still love it and I still appreciate it. And so I think that is very, very much there, and that is very much pumped up and very much alive. And I think I'm just saying, like, I get the kick of the nostalgia. I get the kick of seeing classic Stormtrooper armor. I get the kick of seeing Vader and all that stuff. But we'll get to that. Now let's talk about Tarkin in this film. I honestly thought that they handled it nicely. If you told me that the actor did not die like 30 years before the film came out, would I believe you? Or not 30 years, 20 years. But anyways, it's fine. I would say that it looked funky. I think, well, there's a few things to realize. I think this technology, could it be used for an entire film? Probably not. But they did it so effortlessly with the limited screen time Tarkin had, where it's like we talk about, what's his face? Orson Krennic, who was kind of like a Thrawn-esque character before he was added to Rebels. But anyways, everybody's like, oh, he's probably the main villain. But it honestly seems to be Tarkin. I mean, Tarkin's like gets his moment to shine using digital effects, using, a new actor, and using all this stuff. I honestly thought it was not seamless, but the technology will never be seamless. It'll never be seamless. But damn pretty close to being seamless. Now we get introduced to Bodhi Rook and Saw's friend, Bodhi in the film. Like I said, Bodhi doesn't add much, and I think that whole sequence with like that giant squid, didn't care for. I thought I loved seeing Saw struggle because, and all that stuff, and how he had the new legs. I like the look, so I really did like the look of this kind of older Saw, because I mean you followed Saw, through so many different adventures, whether it be through, obviously at the time he was only in that one Clone Wars arc, but now in the retrospective of this film, you see him through Clone Wars, through Rebels, so you see him in a bunch of different missions. You know what he's gone through, and you just can't help but, I guess, feel bad in some sense, but also you don't understand where he's coming from, and still I think he's one of those great anti-heroes. I honestly kind of pinned him in an anti-hero light. And I think his ideologies are really interesting, where it's like he's by no means pro-Empire. He's heavily anti-Empire. Heck, it blew up his home planet. Well, that's after the fact. But anyways, after he was dead. Okay, I forgot about that. But anyways, he's so anti-Empire, but at the same time, it's like he goes to extreme levels. So it's like he might be so anti-Empire, he'd be like, oh, for example, this is something Saw might do. If the majority of the people are on this planet that are Empire, he'll blow up the planet. That's a good example of it. Is if 80% of the planet is Empire and maybe 20% is prisoners, he'll blow up the planet. That's just an example of what Saw might do. He didn't actually do that, but I'm just saying that seems to be an extreme Saw would do, and an example of that, which is a very fascinating character, which is like Rebels. If they saw 80% of a planet being stormtroopers, 20%, regular civilian hostages, they'll still go in and try to rescue them. That's the different ideologies, both anti-Empire, but different at the heart of it, different ideologies. And I also love the fight sequence on Jeddah, and I love when Chirrut comes in and is like bam 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 bam, and Baze helps. All great stuff, great stuff. So yeah, This is actually be part 1 of the video. Like I ended up doing in Revenge of the Sith, I got hungry, so I stopped it then. And the same goes for now, but it's kind of for the better. Because I have a lot to talk about. I'm going to do breaking down even harder about everything rest of the film. So where we ended up, Baze and Chirrut saved Jyn and Cassian Andor, or did they? I'll be interested to talk about that for a later